Hello, I'm Saurus. My guest today is Manuel Vargas. Manuel is a professor of philosophy at the University of California, San Diego. Welcome, Manuel.
Thanks for having me.
We'll get to that later. Manuel, I've noticed some interesting things about human society that is different from how dinosaurs live. So around here, I notice things like tall buildings and hotels and places where humans seem to be doing a lot of things that dinosaurs never did. Can you shine some light on why that might be?
Thanks, Moral Source. This is a terrific question, but I'm going to answer your question with a question of my own, which is, how do the young taste amongst the dinosaurs?
They taste delicious.
Yeah, see, this is a very unusual thing for human beings. We don't tend to eat our young. And I think part of the answer to the question you're asking about why do we have cathedrals and large buildings and soccer games and so much of the things that are distinctive of what human beings do, it turns out to have a kind of relationship to believe it or not, the question you were just asking, I think has a relationship to this issue about whether or not we eat the young.
So humans are able to have these things because their young are not delicious?
Well, we wouldn't know whether or not our young are delicious because we don't tend to eat our young. Here's why I say that. So one of the things that I think is really unusual about human beings relative to all sorts of other creatures, including dinosaurs, is that we have a set of practices that we sometimes call responsibility practices. This is where we praise and blame one another for violating our community rules or norms. And I think this practice is an important part of explaining why it is that human beings would get very upset about trying to eat someone's young. But I think it also turns out to be part of the answer to the question about why do we have cathedrals and legal systems and things like soccer games and all sorts of the kind of weirdly distinctive features about human beings.
Okay, can you tell me more? So how does not eating your young lead to all of these things? I can see how maybe you'd have more dinosaurs on your soccer team if you don't eat them, but other than that, I'm having a hard time drawing this connection.
Good. So here's the thought. So what these cases share is a practice of praising and blaming one another. So that is that we have rules against eating our young, and we have rules against violating, as it were, agreements, practices, norms, things that we collectively do and value. And that set of rules where we blame people, we punish people for breaking those rules, all of that stuff enables us to engage in complex forms of coordination and cooperation. Here's what I mean by that. So think about what it takes to build a cathedral. So these cathedrals oftentimes could take 100 years or more to build. For human beings, that's a long period of time. And it can be several generations of people required to build it. So the person who comes up with the idea isn't alive at the time at which the project is completed. Wow. That requires a group of people who are willing to follow a plan over time that they themselves might not have invented. And so how do you get people to do that? Well, you can't promise them eating tasty babies. That's not going to be enough. What you need is a system of norm enforcement, of praising and blaming and condemning and enforcing those rules and norms. And if you've got that, you've got this distinctive ability to make it the case that people are going to be inclined to cooperate and coordinate on long-term projects. And that's what our responsibility system does. That's what our praising and blaming enables us to do, is to engage in these complex forms of coordination and cooperation. But it also back-ends a lot of our prohibitions against things that a group of us don't like. If we have praising and blaming practices around them, we can either reinforce them or we can prevent people or make it much harder and more costly for people to engage in eating others.
Wow, okay. So dinosaurs already took over the world, but then you humans seem to have usurped our power. So You attribute this to the ability to cooperate and coordinate through having these responsibility judgments?
Yeah, so we got the help of an asteroid first. But after the asteroid did in some of your buddies, part of what enabled us to succeed, to the extent to which we have succeeded, is by this coordination and cooperation. That is, we've got this ability to enforce norms and to get people to agree to these norms, and this gives us a power to do things that we otherwise couldn't do. So here's one way to think about it. Think about what it would take for a group of dinosaurs to play a 90-minute soccer game without eating each other.
It'd be tough.
Yeah.
Because the others are just so tasty.
Exactly. And human beings, even though it might turn out that we're tasty, you'll tell me later maybe, but
I can confirm humans are very tasty.
I'm concerned about this. This is an uncomfortable interview for that reason. But I will say this, for human beings, one of the advantages that we have is that we can organize ourselves to adhere to rules, and we find it much more motivationally easy to do so. Partly because we want to belong to groups, partly because we're afraid of what's going to happen if everybody else coordinates. So think about what would happen and how your conduct with other dinosaurs would vary if you knew that if you broke a rule, that a pack of 20 dinosaurs would go after you for breaking the rule.
How big and strong are the dinosaurs?
Well, at 20 of them, they can be middle-sized and be pretty substantial.
I'm much bigger and have much bigger teeth than most dinosaurs.
Okay, then imagine 20 dinosaurs like you.
Terrifying.
Exactly. So this is what human beings figured out how to do, is how to leverage our numbers to get coordination and cooperation up and running in a really effective way. And that's how we get cathedrals, that's how we get soccer games, and many of the other goodies that human beings have.
Thank you very much, Manuel. This has been very informative. One thing I notice is you talk a lot about cooperation, but looking around, I don't see any other humans to protect you.
That's true. I worry about why you're asking that, or why you're making that observation.
Well, all this talk about eating babies and eating the young give me a bit of an appetite.
But I'm not a baby.
No, you're even tastier. Much more meat on those bones than the babies. They're hardly worth eating. Still worth eating, but hardly worth eating.
Well, that would be a terrible thing for you to do. I would blame you, and who knows if other of my friends and family might come after you if you were to eat me.
I don't worry about humans. It's just more for me to eat. So thanks very much, and I'll be having you for lunch.
No!
Rah!